Looking to do something dramatically different for your fantasy draft? Go to Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. From now through week 1 of the regular season, you'll get 18 holes of golf, a private dining room for your fantasy draft, plus nachos, wings, non-alcoholic beverages, and you'll save $1 on all premium liquor and draft beer. Packages start as low as $75 a person. Yes, I said golf at Whirlwind and draft your fantasy team while eating the best wings in the city. If you're interested, just email me, Doug@DougFranzUnplugged.com, and have everybody else look at your draft board and feel the wind.
Thanks for listening, Unplugged Army. I'm Louis Unga, General Manager at Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. We're proud to present Doug Franz Unplugged.
Form an offense.
Form an offense.
4 minutes.
Form an offense. Form an offense.
Everything you need to know in sports that affects Maricopa County, the state of Arizona, and the world, you get in 4 minutes. We start things off in downtown Phoenix. The 4-game losing streak is over. Diamondbacks a winner 6-5. Eduardo Rodriguez, not bad, not good, but not bad. 6 2/3 of an inning, gave up 4 runs. Sal Frank got his second save of the year. Perdomo 2 for 3. Carroll 2 for 4, with both hits being triples. McCarthy also had 2 extra base hits, a solo homer and a double. Manager Torey Lovello.
Good to get back in the win column, after 4 grinding losses and some baseball games that we were in, and I felt quite frankly we should have been winning. It was nice to go out and execute and win a 1-run baseball game. Those seem to build a little bit of momentum.
The rubber match Jeff Weir is a day game. Parker Messick's making his major league debut for Cleveland. Brandon Pfaadt goes for the Diamondbacks. He's 12-8 with a 5.08 ERA. He'll throw the first pitch at 12:40. Merkle winner 98-91. The game was at 73-68 Golden State going into the fourth quarter, and the Merc won the final quarter 30-18, despite the fact Golden State only had 3 turnovers the whole game. This time, Alyssa Thomas had a near triple-double, 13 points, 9 boards, 8 assists. Now the Merc are tied for 4th, but they're only a half game out of 2nd place. Who are they tied with? Las Vegas. Where do they play tomorrow night? Las Vegas. Tip-off at 7 o'clock. No hard Cardinals news, but there's breaking speculation. Inside linebacker Akeem Davis-Gaither has not been named as the starter opposite Mac Wilson. But boy, it sounded like it yesterday. Defensive coordinator Nick Rollis.
You can tell he's extremely smart and that he's a vet because, his first year in defense doesn't feel like it. Picks it up right away. One install, got it, and really doesn't make much mistakes. If he does, he corrects it right away. I've never seen him make the same mistake twice.
Cardinals are home against the Raiders Saturday night. I don't know if you celebrated or you were sad, but guess what yesterday was?
This is the last practice of true fall camp, so I was happy with how the whole thing kind of went, not just one day.
That was head coach Kenny Dillingham saying that yesterday was the last practice of camp, and now time to get ready for NAU. If you're wondering what Brent Brennan said, so am I, because U of A didn't post anything from him again. Both teams start the season in a week and a half. Saturday night, ASU versus NAU, U of A hosts Hawaii. So if you've tried to do something for almost 20 years and you finally do it, how many flags would you buy to remember the moment? Here's Rory McIlroy on winning the Masters.
They had 1,100 extra in the merchandise facility at the end of the week, and we took all 1,100. But I'll never get sick of signing them. I've waited 17 years to sign that flag in the middle, and I will never complain about doing that.
He's in Atlanta for the Tour Championship that starts tomorrow. The LPGA is in Ontario for the CPKC Women's Open. Lots of football news. Cam Scadaboo is back practicing for the New York Giants. He had a hamstring issue. Anthony Richardson's agent says that trust is questionable between the quarterback and the Colts. Bears and Chiefs announced they'll both play their starters in their final preseason game. And the Saints are the only NFL team to not name a starting quarterback for week 1. Head coach Kellen Moore, what's going on with the battle between Pinnacle and Hamilton?
It's close. We look at every aspect of this quarterback situation, and so it's really, really close. Numbers, experiences, reps, everything. It's going all the way back to start of training camp. Everything is very, very close.
And finally, I've got the story for you if you're either interested in ruining your career or learning the newest viral phrase. Meet Devon Flanagan Hogan. She's an assistant attorney general in Rhode Island. How do I know she's an AG? Because she told the cop's body cam that was arresting her 15 times that she's an AG.
I want you to turn your body cam off. Protocol is that you turn it off. If a citizen requests it to turn it off, she's a lawyer.
So they want you guys to leave?
Yes, we're gonna leave.
Let's just leave. Let's just make it easy, okay?
We're gonna make it easy. That's not.
I am. Okay. I'm her husband.
That's not the point. Can you look at me?
We'll talk over here, okay?
Your protocol is.
Can we all talk? Can we all talk? We'll talk over here. They want you to leave.
Your protocol is.
Can we talk?
There's 3 people that are a part of the video that probably wish they weren't. The assistant attorney general, her college friend, and her college friend's husband. It's not being reported why the restaurant asked them to leave. They refused, so the restaurant called the cops.
You guys just want them out? Do you want them trespass?
Anything we can do.
Yeah.
Trespass, yeah. I just need
trespass. Get them out.
Yeah, please.
Before she starts saying attorney general, or should I say AG, she starts by explaining the protocol of body camera use and by telling the officer that he's not going to arrest her.
I know that your protocol is.
So you're trespassing, so we gotta leave now. Unless one of you
We're not trespassing. You haven't notified us that we're trespassing. Number one.
What did I just say to you? You're trespassing. Let's go.
Number one.
I don't want to
two,
arrest you guys.
You're not going to arrest us. Number 2
so let's
is
leave.
that
We gotta go. We gotta go.
Protocol
Let's go.
is.
Let's go.
Calm down for 1 second. Is if we ask you to turn the body
I don't
cam
want to
off.
deal with this. Let's
Okay.
go.
No. I understand you don't want to deal with it, but the protocol is, and your protocol is if I ask you to turn off the body cam, you have to turn it off, and that's your protocol. She's a lawyer, so she knows.
And now the part that's made her famous, which I am going to borrow. The next time I decide to argue with a police officer about his protocols in arresting me, when I've been asked to leave a restaurant, I choose not to leave the restaurant. I've been overserved and I'm drunk and angry and I blame the cop for everything. I'm going to start yelling, I'm a podcaster. I'm a podcaster. I'm a podcaster.
I'm an AG. I'm an AG. I'm an AG.
She's an AG. You're not. She's not being arrested. Let's go.
I'm not being arrested. You're putting me in cuffs. I'm not being arrested.
Do you have any weapons on you?
No. I'm an AG.
I'm a podcaster.
The reason why I always say that Bell's is not your typical country bar with mediocre bar food is because our kitchen is truly a scratch kitchen. From every single sauce that we make, to every dish, to the beef that we have come in, to the seafood that we have brought in each day, every single dish is handcrafted. We don't have microwaves, so you're tasting that quality the minute that it hits the table.
Bell's Nashville Kitchen on Main Street in Old Town Scottsdale.
You found home, down home.
Okay, so I didn't know. I didn't know that the pineapple jalapeno margarita is the number one thing that flares up this acid reflux, because I have been basically coughing up a lung the whole time I've been trying to get ready for the show. Who knows what's going to happen now? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever it is that you've decided to make Doug Franz Unplugged a part of your day, my family greatly appreciates it. My name is Doug Franz, and you have found the only podcast in the world totally devoted to the coverage of the 4 major sports franchises of one great American city that drops on your phone each and every weekday morning. We also cover ASU, U of A, GCU, the Rattlers, the Rising, and the Merc. This is Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. How are you? I'm doing wonderful, except for the acid reflux today. Oh my gosh, it's awful. It's awful. So for those of you that might be new to Doug Franz Unplugged, number one, if you ever want to help, if you love the show and you understand that I need all the help I can get, it's always supporting the sponsors, but it's also downloading and listening to the show. And I would say downloading old shows, listening to old shows. Give me those replays. Even if you're not in the room, just turn your computer on and scroll back in Spotify or go to Podbean and even go back to episode 1, my first one, and kind of laugh at me as I was learning how to do this. But what happened was when I found this music and started using that as the intro, I shouldn't say when I found it, Yoda is the one that did all the work. Well, I started using that and I started developing an intro little by little, and old school generals in the Unplugged Army laughed like crazy at how many times I used to butcher the intro and get trapped as I was trying to remember, what do I say here and how does this work? And it was just a funny game about how many butcher jobs I did in eventually getting that intro down So it was the same thing. So if you ever wonder why I talk a little trash, one time General Tom wrote in Town Hall Tuesday how he's, it was funny. When I was so bad at it, it became really exciting when I got it. And I think like everybody that's a general was jacked up. Yeah, Doug did it. And it's like we were all together that day. But then once I started getting it all the time, it became much funnier when I butchered the thing. Because it was just awful when that would happen. So General Tom wrote one time that even though he's still rooting for me, he's kind of rooting more when I screw it up. So that's the little game if you're new to the Unplugged Army on why I do that at the beginning of the show. The reason why I'm in such a great mood, granted the jury's still out, there could be a problem, but I went to see the cardiologist yesterday, and it was doctor recommended, and I did have a little bit of a pain, but on the right side of my chest, not the left side, and I assumed it was not cardiovascular, but more acid reflux. Well, she did an EKG on me, said it was totally normal. Then she said, but we're not done. And I thought, what do you mean we're not done? She goes, you need to have a stress test. What? And she goes, but you're wearing flip-flops. I said, well, number one, I'm always wearing flip-flops. What do you mean? But I have to go back tomorrow and run on the treadmill and look like one of those Gatorade commercials with all the wires on me. And I say this begrudgingly. I wish it wasn't true, but I am a very hairy man. And oh my gosh, they had the stickers all over me for the EKG. And the nurse lady was kind of freaking out, going, oh my gosh. Like she's getting herself fired up for the unsticking. And I just said, just get angry. The only way this works is to do it angry. And every time she did it, she would get it like half off. She would try to go fast and it would slip out of her hands and she would only get it half off. So I had to go through double sticker removal because each one took 2 pulls. Oh, that was not pleasant. It was not pleasant experience at all. But I get through that. Now I'm going to have more of those stickers on me tomorrow for the stress test. And then I have to go get a CAT scan. I said the CAT scan is going to look into the arteries. And they said if the stress test and the CAT scan work out, she said, I want you to come back and see me in 10 years. That's it. But if we find something, then we've got to do more work. But then she was really nice. She started making small talk, and she did a great job of making me feel absolutely meaningless. And yes, I said that. I told her the reason why I'm there is my family doctor is a little worried about my sleep habits because I sleep, anywhere between 10 to 15 hours a week. And maybe I get up to 30, if you count the whole weekend and stuff. And she was really worried about that too. She asked me how come, and I said, I'm an overnight podcaster. And she says, oh, what's the subject of your podcast? And I told her it was local sports. And then I said, well, how long have you lived in town? And she said, oh, since the early 90s. And I said, oh, are you a sports fan? And she goes, no. And then I said, oh, okay, well then, it doesn't really matter, but it's a sports podcast. And she goes, what's it called? And I said, Doug Franz Unplugged. And she goes, okay, why are you unplugged? And I said, well, I used to be plugged, meaning I would get called into the office to stop talking in the way I was talking. And now I'm unplugged. I can do whatever I want. And she says, oh, well, how do you think the Cardinals are going to do? And I said, well, I think you need to have an owner, a GM, a coach, and a quarterback. And then she goes, well, they don't have any of those. And I was like, wow, okay. Then I'm kind of wondering, well, if you had a strong opinion, how do you not know? Well, okay, I didn't say anything yet. And then she said her husband's a big Chiefs fan because he's originally from Kansas City. Her sons love the Chiefs because they win right at that prime age of when you start picking a team, and this is dad's team and they're winning and fun. And my daughter's a Swiftie, so she loves the Chiefs now too. And I said, oh, that's really good. I used to be a radio talk show host in Kansas City. And she goes, oh, were you on the radio here? Yeah. And then I finally just said, have you ever heard of Doug and Wolf? And she says, no. So she knows the Cardinals. Like, she started rattling it off names of the players. You would think she knew Wolf if she knows the Cardinals, especially, since the 90s. I mean, Wolf's had, 17 radio partners by now? But she didn't know. And then she goes, well, I'll tell my husband to start listening to your podcast. And I'm kind of thinking, well, I love that, but you're allowed to listen too. So that was kind of an entertaining moment. But she did a great job of putting me in my place. She knew all this Cardinal stuff, had no idea about Doug and Wolf or anything like that. So that was funny. And the really strange thing about her, she types with 4 fingers. I mean, thumb, index fingers, and middle fingers, and that's it. That's it. Like, her pinky finger never touched the keyboard. How do you do that? It was, I don't know. That was very strange. Yes, I'm a scout. What do? I watch all kinds of people so I can pick up the signs from the third base coach. I watch people so I see talent. So when I give you draft opinions, so I'm the same way with everybody. I mean, everything. I notice who's right-handed, who's left-handed, who does this, who does that, That's how you get to be a scout, I guess. Not that I am one. Nobody wanted me. Another thing, putting me in my place. Love today's show, even though I'm just starting it. I've only done the 4-minute offense, but I've also recorded an interview with Jose Romero. The other, I don't know why I just blanked on what he does. He's the other beat reporter with Nick Picoro. Those two tag team and cover the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the reason why I loved it so much, and this is, to me, this was the definition of unplugged. Speaking of unplugged, we got into the culture of the Diamondbacks clubhouse as it relates to a Hispanic culture and a more Americanized culture. And of course, full well, there are lazy American baseball players and there are high intensity Latino baseball players. So it's not in any way a generalization, but it is a cultural thing of how much fun, if you ever watch the Caribbean World Series, I mean, it is a dance-a-thon going on. And oh, by the way, we're playing baseball. And it is pure entertainment. And I brought it up because Cattell seems to struggle with that. And we went deep. And I love talking to Jose about it, who is Mexican-American. And I guess I'm 4 generations removed from being German-American. So I'm, just that kind of there. I'm just kind of here. But I thought it was a great conversation. And we went places where I think other people are afraid to. I really enjoyed it. And I think he educated me on a couple things. So I think you're going to enjoy it too. Please let me know. And if you do, please give some thank you notes to Jose. And then please keep listening until the end of today's show because we have some big fantasy football announcements and Burrito Express. But just to make it, quick, fantasy football draft at Whirlwind Saturday at 11. Golf at 1:30. Cost is $100. Wings and nachos included. And I would love to see you. I would love for you to be a part of it. Email me if you want in, Doug@DougFranzUnplugged.com. However, Rich is trying to keep it moving and get everybody already signed up. And here I am inviting more people. But I just wanted to know, if you're interested, let me know. All right, let's do it. Time for Doug's Big One. It's my number one opinion of the day. Let's roll. Doug.
Doug. Where's Doug? Here, sorry, Doug. Where you at?
Yeah, was that a plug to unplug right there? That was smooth.
Obviously, Franz is such a good player.
Doug's Big One. This will probably be the first and last time that I ever do an Indianapolis Colts opinion on Doug's Big One. But Anthony Richardson, you need to get a new agent right now. Right now. And the reason why I say that is there are times an agent can stick up for a player, and that's a good thing. And there are times an agent just makes the player look absolutely ridiculous. And that is the case now. Daniel Jones was named the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson, if you don't know the backstory, drafted high in the draft, and he's one that I'm going to be proven wrong on. I did like him coming out. I didn't like him that high. I think he got, off the top of my head, I think he got drafted 4th. Does that sound, anybody buy that? I think he got drafted 4th overall. I liked him enough to draft him in the first round. I would have never drafted him 4th, but I would have drafted him in the first round. So I'm a bust here too on Anthony Richardson. So if you didn't see his season last year, not only has he played poorly throughout and at times had his work ethic questioned, but last year he went out of bounds shy of a first down and then sat out the 4th down play. And they went for it. And they asked him what happened, and he said, I tapped out. That was a long run. I was exhausted. So he was already kind of frustrating people, but to actually admit you're that out of shape that running in football forced you to need to take a play off, and it's a play your team is going for it on 4th down, and you're the quarterback? Okay, just keep that in mind. That's where the Colts are with Anthony Richardson. Now, his agent is a guy named Derek Jackson. He did not demand a trade, but he was asked by ESPN, what are you looking at, and what are the conversations going to be like with the Colts now? And he says, we have a lot to discuss. Trust is a big factor. And that is, at best, questionable right now. Anthony came back and made the improvements in the areas he needed to improve. And by all accounts, he had a great camp. You got to be kidding me. I mean, if I'm any team in the NFL and I'm even remotely, listen, I need to stop myself because I'm a man of principle, and so many people in the NFL just consider this boring hubbub. And they just ignore agents when they blab on like this. And if a real GM would be listening to me right now before I say this, I want you to know, because I want to give you both sides. I want to give you how I feel. It is Doug's big one. It is my opinion. But I want to give you kind of more of a factual base of this is what the league would think. Any GM that kind of likes Anthony Richardson would not care what his agent says. They would just say it's the business. And of course, you're going to defend your client. For me, no way. Because if he's saying something this ridiculous publicly, that trust is an issue. If my client quit on the team and now I'm blasting the team and trust is an issue? Oh my gosh. I mean, that means that agent, if he's willing to say that publicly, what is he saying in the ear of Anthony Richardson? So why do I want to bring in a guy that has a homemade cheering section that's going to blow sunshine up his butt all the time, and now I have to deal with trying to bring him back down to earth? No way am I touching that. And this guy says trust is an issue now? He did everything they asked him to do? So that just means you get the starting job? That just erases all the years you've been there of underperforming? Wow. I had to get that off my chest. I mean, there's so much going on in the world, I admit. But when I saw that, like, what are we doing? And that's Doug's big one. There are multiple ways that you can use Santan Ford. Okay. You're a supporter of the Unplugged Army. Well, where are you at in this picture? You need simple maintenance, like an oil change or something like that. You can call the mobile unit or schedule online. Just go to santanford.com. The phone number's right there for the service department if you want to use that. Or you can just schedule the mobile unit to meet you anywhere that's within 25 miles of Santan Ford. I used it before I had a meeting with Sweet Lou for Whirlwind. We were at Trophy Bar. The guy pulls up, changes the oil. I never leave the bar. It was fantastic. So you have that option. If you ever need work done on the car that's a little heavier, they'll even come pick your car up for you and take it in. And then you're not leaving your place of business, your home, or whatever's going on in life. And then when you are ready for your next new car, truck, SUV, we get a friends and family rate as members of the Unplugged Army. How do you get it? Just email me, Doug at DougFranzUnplugged.com, because I am Santan Ford. I don't know why I hit record and then just had no idea what was about to come out. Let's do Cardinals, and we'll do Diamondbacks a little bit later. Jose Romero coming up. But before I get rolling on Cardinals, in the background, I want to play something because I just thought this was hysterical. If you don't know what's going on, the Cardinals play the Saints in week 1. I mentioned it in the 4-minute offense. There are 31 teams in the NFL that know who their starting quarterback is, at least privately and publicly. And there's one that doesn't, at least publicly, and that's the Saints. Head coach Kellen Moore has not announced who his starting quarterback is. And it's like a little battle for the Arizona Republic's All-Metro team. It's Pinnacle High School's Spencer Rattler against Hamilton High School's Tyler Shook. And those are the two guys that are battling it out for the starting job, Shook being the rookie. Well, the media wants to know who's going to be the starting quarterback. And Kellen Moore starts with some injury updates and gives a long, kind of speech.
Ridgeway, he had a little peck that came up in the game. Alante, he's progressing well. Terrell Burgess still. Trevor Penning.
So that goes on for a while. And then he starts talking about practice. And, we're talking about practice, man, and going through some different things. He's still going.
We're able to kind of get after, especially with a lot of the ones who didn't play in the game. They were able to get a ton of
So you got all that going on. And then after he's done with his opening statement, they'll ask questions.
For week 1 coming up, is there starting quarterback?
No. So we're going through that process right now. Again, letting these guys continue to go through this journey. They've done some really, really good work, and so we'll put ourselves in position for this Denver game, and then see how it goes from there.
Okay, then it just keeps rolling. It keeps rolling, and it keeps rolling. What's crazy is it's about 8 straight minutes of nothing but the same question about the starting quarterback. Somehow each member of the media thinks they phrased it in a special way that they're going to get the answer they're looking for. Kellen Moore is the most patient person in the world. Like every answer is, there's nothing here. This. Now he did give one answer that for us locally, if you're a Cardinals fan, you're going to care a little bit because that's your first opponent. And if you're a local high school fan, you're going to care because it is cool. An NFL quarterback battle is going on between 2 local high school quarterbacks. Here's the one answer that kind of gives you a little bit of info.
Tyler just starting it off. I think we had a really, really rough first drive. Just for the offense in general, not just talking about him. We just didn't start off the way we wanted to. Kind of slow start. I thought he made a lot of really good decisions. He found completions. We had the missed op. With CO late in that drive, which would have been an awesome opportunity. Again, he was moving the football. We just got to get more points and more production out of that first couple drives. And I think that's more important for just the whole offense, not just Tyler. And so, I thought his process there was some good process and good sequencing there from his standpoint. I thought Spence came in and obviously gave us a couple big plays. The DPI I think was a big play just to get ourselves going, move the field. Him and Tipton giving ourselves an opportunity there to move down in the red zone. He made some plays. Obviously the interception was unfortunate. That's on me just as much as anyone, just calling that particular play down there. And and the guy made a phenomenal play. And so his response was great. Just the way he responded. I thought that 2-minute drive for that whole offensive group was really, really good. Just the whole operation, guys being on the same page, understanding their responsibilities, the urgency in which we played with. I thought there was a lot of good at the end. So, we'll just continue to evaluate.
So if you wanted to be up on that, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to Cardinals, and we'll just let this press conference keep going. And we'll try to figure out when they're finally done talking about the quarterback situation.
Is not naming a starter now but a reflection of kind of how close this race is to you, or is it just there's no need to?
players.
No, it's close. It's close.
Okay, it's close. It's close. They're still going. So we'll go Cardinals. All right. The first Cardinals. I mentioned this to you in the 4-minute offense, but let's get into it a little bit deeper here. Nick Rallis was asked a question about the inside linebacker situation and specifically how Akeem Davis-Gaither is adjusting because he was mostly a special teamer with the Bengals. How's he handling the defense? Even though we don't know who's going to be the starting inside linebacker opposite Mack Wilson yet, listen to how strongly Nick Rallis talks about Davis-Gaither.
He's doing a good job. You can tell he's extremely smart and that he's a vet because, his first year in defense doesn't feel like it. Picks it up right away. Like one install, got it, and really doesn't make much mistakes. If he does, he corrects it right away. I've never seen him make the same mistake twice. So you can tell he's a pro. And he's a natural linebacker. Like he's got feel to stack behind those tackles and find the football. So he's doing a really good job.
Wow, that was easy to digest. Kellen Moore, are you still talking about the same stuff?
Protection, is that more like on the quarterback? Is it on the center? Is it split? Like what's
There's a combination. Starts with the offense line and the center making his initial communication. The QB does have some ability within that to make the adjustments in the trump card, so to speak. And so, especially for these younger QBs, it's all.
Oh, no. The highlight is still getting used to how does that play in the quarterbacks and the offensive line into the decision. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Yeah.
It's all the same.
Go into the last preseason game thinking maybe y'all could have a decision made by Monday.
Oh my gosh, we're done. We're going to have the decision made by. Oh, what a terrible question. So, okay, anyway. What a bad question. Do you know the game, woman? Oh my gosh. So, anyway. Davis-Gaither, to have him talk that way doesn't make the same mistake twice, and then jump to it, has a natural feel. You could have stopped talking about him when you talked about how smart he was, but then you wanted to go has a natural feel. That's how I judge these pressers. When I'm playing sound for you, I've just been doing it so long I can really tell more by how they say things than what they say. And when a coach, especially this coaching staff with the Cardinals, has so many things that are unsolicited that they won't give you unless you ask specifically, or if they do give you unsolicited information, that's when you know they want to talk about that person. Before we get back to more Nick Rallis, are we done here?
Minor practices, more efficient, not stressing tackling.
No, it's still
I think tackling in general, we always talk about. I feel like for a number of years now,
tackling.
since I've
good.
Been
So
a
let's
couple
stop
different places.
the tape.
We always talk about the early season.
And it's officially at the 5:16 mark of the YouTube video of the Saints presser. 5:16. So 5 minutes and 16 seconds of nothing but rephrasing who's going to be the starting quarterback. Man, that's give Kellen Moore credit that he just sat through that whole thing. The next one about Nick Rallis is just to kind of give you a little rundown on two guys that they asked him a bunch of questions. I didn't pull the whole thing. Just what I thought was either interesting to me from a football standpoint, or I looked at it as if I'm a hardcore Cardinals fan, what would I want to know going into, or at this point of camp, at this point of the preseason, and going into the regular season. And from a Nick Rallis point of view, I liked what he said about Dalvin Tomlinson and Jordan Birch. If you don't know the Dalvin Tomlinson story, Dalvin is a dude that you talk about just a pro. It is Dalvin Tomlinson. And he is not a rookie in any stretch of the imagination. He's, maybe 30, 31, something like that. I knew him from Alabama. I mean, not when I lived in Alabama or anything like that, but I watched him play in Alabama. Really good football player, second round pick, and is just kind of a guy that, when I say really good, I don't want to make that sound like Hall of Famer, but he's the kind of guy that when you sign him, maybe you get him and you're thinking, okay, maybe I should be working to replace him. And you're always trying to get somebody better. And the problem is it's hard to find somebody better. So he's going to be the type of guy that plays for somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 years because there's always a need. There's always a need for a 320-pound dude that refuses to be moved out of the way and is a great run stuffer. And listening to Nick Rollis talk about him, he went even harder in his compliments.
I mean, I think you can see the player that he's been show up on the practice field. I mean, he's hard to move in the run game, but his feet are sweet. It's unbelievable how agile he is at his size. And I think that was the first thing that kind of wowed me in person, is just seeing that back in OTAs. And then you see it transfer into the team periods now during training camp. So that, along with just pushing that pocket, he can be very disruptive inside.
Reason why I wanted to highlight not only him, but really all of the defensive line, and maybe you go specifically the front seven, is because I love the draft pick of Will Johnson. I think Max Melton and Garrett Williams have done, and even Keitrell Clark and Denzel Burke, they're all doing really well. Okay. I mean, they're really doing good based on their age, based on their learning. I mean, it was really rough on Will Johnson in Denver and during the game, but in the growth factor, you're seeing good things. They're just not there. And that's why I focus on the front seven. If you're a Cardinals fan and you want this team going to the playoffs, like if you're ready to throw down and say this team needs to make the playoffs, it's going to be about the front seven. Because Nick Rollis is, I'm not going to say genius, but he's a really good defensive coordinator. He designs schemes that bring pressure and can confuse quarterbacks. He's good at that. But if you can't stop the run, I mean, you can sit here and do all the bells and whistles you want defensively. But if you can't stop the run, it's kind of over. Because bells and whistles aren't what stops the run. You got to have dudes. You got to have guys that understand their role and are strong enough to execute that role to stop the run. Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson are exactly those types of people. But they're getting up there. Well, nobody's up there as high as Calais, but they're both older players. So if last year's pick, Darius Robinson, has any kind of a season, now it's really on the table to be able to use the benefits of having a Josh Sweat, because you've stopped the run. And then you've got wonderful backups in Nichols, and I've been really impressed with Mustipher and Dante Stills. If these guys are, Nichols getting healthy, fully healthy, if these guys are able to do their jobs well, then I think you're going to see either Josh Sweat put on a show, or more importantly, sacks that are schemed, or at least pressure on the quarterback that's schemed by Nick Rollis. But I just, listening to him talk about Dalvin Tomlinson, the first thing I thought of is, wow, they're really stacked on the inside unless Darius Robinson doesn't come through. Then what happens is Calais Campbell and Dalvin Tomlinson can wear down. And that's a really hard way to juggle your lineup of, when do you put your run stuffers in? And are you having them play every series, but on the early downs? So now they have to get winded running back and forth, running off the field? Or do you keep them in for an entire series? How are you going to rotate them in and out? Them in and out. I think I said them in and out. Them in and out. And the reason why that's important is if you wait to save them until the rest of the game, until the end of the game, but you don't take the lead, well, if the other team's winning, they're just going to run the ball down your throat. So how do you balance making sure you get the lead, but you're playing them enough that they're fresh at the end? And almost all of those things, all those questions I just gave you, are solved if Darius Robinson has a good season. because everybody else is really solid. Another person on the inside is Jordan Birch. Well, I shouldn't say inside, making it sound like inside linebacker. He's an outside linebacker, but I mean, he's on the front four, and he got a lot of attention recently. Here's Nick Rawlis on what the rookies bring into the table.
I mean, I think you kind of said it. Like, for how big he is extremely athletic. And I like the way that he's playing right now with uses his size and plays violent. Just thinking about the practice and even in that last game against the Broncos, like, he does some really good things in terms of just power on the edge, whether that's in the run game or the pass rush.
Now, Jordan Birch, if you didn't know, he was the guy I was gushing about on all of my draft breakdowns. I know I said this about 2 weeks ago, but I just love going through this again. This is the kid that played in high school. Here were his positions: point guard, small forward, tight end, running back, 3 technique, 5 technique, 7 technique, 9 technique, and linebacker. He was a freshman All-American in high school at 2 different positions, defensive end and tight end. His team won 3 games. How do you get on the All-American team when your team only wins 3 games and you're a freshman? He got sick of that school. He transferred, and then he won 3 straight state championships. He ran for 2 touchdowns in the state championship game as a senior. Voted the captain of the team for his Under Armour game. You know how hard it is to do that? I mean, you're in a group. You got selected as an all-star. A whole bunch of alpha dudes come together, and all the alpha dudes choose you to be Mr. Alpha. And oh, by the way, he averaged 15 points, 9 boards, 3 assists as a senior, and he's got 9 7/8 inch of a hand. He's almost got a 10-inch hand. Come on. Oh, and he ran a 4.67 at 279 pounds. Yes, I did. I didn't memorize any of that. I pulled out my draft book, the draft Bible kind of thing that is produced by Dane Brugler of The Athletic that my wife is nice enough to put together for me. So I have all the info from the 2025 draft. That kid's just incredible. I think they crushed that draft. I really do. Except for the Walter Nolan pick. You know how I feel about that. Didn't like the Walter Nolan pick. Like Walter Nolan in extremely late first, early second round. I'm okay with that. Not in the middle. I really think they blew that, and I think it's going to come back to haunt them. We'll see if he ever does anything. Let's switch over to offense now. Here is Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, and this one grabbed me. I think that if you're a Marvin Harrison Jr. fan, you're gonna like this. This is Drew Petzing when he was asked to comment on the comment of another player. So the receiver that we highlighted yesterday, that was highlighted a couple weeks ago by Howard Balzer, Simi Feheko, he was asked by the media to kind of talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. And, what do you see from him now that you're around him for the first time? And Feheko talked about the fact that Marv totally acts like a longtime veteran. It's just, there's nothing rookie or second year about him. And Petzing was asked kind of how, does he agree? Like, does he feel like when he's around Marv right now, it feels like you're around a veteran instead of just a second-year player?
I think we felt that when he got here. I think just the way he approaches the game, the way he goes about his job, the questions he asks, the way that he learns, unique partially because of his background, but I think a lot of it's who he is and how hard he works. You don't feel that very often. He feels like a vet pretty consistently.
Now, what interested me there is Petzing is the master of saying nothing. You ask him about a guy and he talks about, that whole room is doing this. You talk about a player that's underperforming. He goes, well, it's all of our jobs to be able to step up. I've got to call better plays for that guy. We need to get it, blah. And he's really good about blaming himself or talking about team credit and not individual credit. So that's one of the few times where he really dove deep into just one guy. And that's why I wanted to play you. And because, Marv's the first round pick in the Star. The other two quotes that I have from Petzing that I liked, and again, if you're new to the Unplugged Army, what I do is I want to be your filter. I watch the whole press conference. I watch all the press conferences that I think are relevant, and then I pull sound from it that I think can either A, make you a better fan, or B, if I learn something or I can teach something. I love to learn and I love to teach. So if I hear something in a presser that I didn't know and it teaches me something about the game, I want it. Or if I get something that I have an opinion on or I can teach you about, I want that too. So that's what we do here. Well, Tip Ryman is one of my favorite players in football, and I know that might sound ridiculous. Like who? But he's like a second, third string tight end, right? Yeah. But the reason why I love him is he does whatever it takes to win. That's the guys I want to cheer. That's what I want to watch. He just does whatever it takes to win. And he was, Drew Petzing was asked a question about Tip, saying that it was really a poorly phrased question about, can he improve the stats even though he's not a stat guy and, he's not, somebody that's special in this type of category. And Drew Petzing had just finished answering a question about the fact that he has an elite tight end with Trey McBride and discussed that all of his elite players should be involved. It was kind of a dumb question of, is anything different or difficult because your number one weapon is a tight end instead of an elite wide receiver? And he said, wait, it's my job to get the ball to all the elite players. That's the goal. So it doesn't matter who the elite player is. So that then drifted into a question about Tip Ryman. And now you get this.
I think the value is immense in terms of what we ask him to do, in terms of what it allows our offense to do. To the earlier question, there's an elite player, there's different role, whether that's catching passes, statistics, all those different things. He might not be the first pick on a fantasy team, but on an NFL football team when we're trying to win games, his ability in that role is extremely important.
So then Paul Calvisi jumps in and asks, have you noticed him ramp up his physicality this year?
It would be hard to ramp up from where he started based on how much pride I think he takes in that and the way he plays the game, but it's certainly a big asset for him in what he brings to this offense.
I like that. It's hard for him to ramp up his physicality because he's already there. So then Teo Mackey of the Arizona Republic asks, oh, by the way, I'll tell you about that in a second. Sorry that I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. For some reason, the Cardinals don't ask the media for a microphone. So then on the recordings on YouTube, you don't hear the questions. I elevate the questions to an obnoxious level so I can hear them because I have the ability to do that with the computer, the laptop and my editing software. So I do that. One funny little thing that I don't think I could ever get away with saying, but there's a comment section there. If you're ever watching these YouTube pressers from the Cardinals and you see all of the comments ripping the Cardinals for not miking the media, feel free to drop a comment and say, hey, if you ever want to know what the media is asking, just listen to Doug Franz Unplugged. It's kind of funny way to promote the show if you want to kind of hijack that a little bit. Now, don't be obnoxious because the Cardinals, the way they feel about me, who knows what they'll do. But I think that would be kind of funny. But anyway, the next question then from Teo Mackey was, what do you say to him when he goes too far? Like the situation in Kansas City when he got a person, like how do you tell him to tone it down? Where's the line?
I think the big thing is just making sure he's aware of the rules. Like, I think that's my job to educate him. And in that case, I hadn't done that to the proper level. I'm never going to take away his nastiness or the physicality that he plays the game with. I think it's my job to make sure he's aware of what's legal and what's illegal and that we want to play within the rules. But other than that, I don't want to take any of that away.
Now, I can't figure out that comment. First of all, I loved it that he says, I don't want to take anything away from him. But if you didn't see the play, Tip Ryman comes in on a wham block, nails the end, and just lays him out. I mean, it was awesome. It was perfect block. But when the guy's laying on the ground, then Ryman drops his head and blocks him again while he's on the ground. You are allowed to block a guy on the ground, but you're not allowed to drive your head into his head. You just kind of got to fall on him, keep your hands up in the air and fall on him. You keep your hands up in the air to show I'm not holding him, I'm not tackling him. But now that you lay on top of the guy, that guy doesn't get up. There's no way Tip Ryman didn't know the rule. So when Drew Petzing says, hey, it's my job to make sure that he knows the rules, but I don't want to take it. Well, come on. There's no way he didn't know unless he thought I'm allowed to jump on him. Like, well, technically you don't really jump on him. You just got to make sure you fall on him. You jump on him, you get a flag. You drop your head, you always get the flag. But I thought that was kind of strange the way he said, my job is to make sure he knows the rules. But that's Drew Petzing. He's a good dude that way, and that the fact that he always blamed himself. There's a deep dive Cardinals. Hopefully you feel a little closer to the team from that. Coming up next, let's really dive deep into what went on in the Diamondbacks clubhouse and what is going on in the Diamondbacks clubhouse. Jose Romero is the guy that recorded everything that you've heard from Geraldo Perdomo in Colorado when he ran to the defense of Ketel Marte. Since he did that, everybody flooded the Jose Romero Twitter handle. Well, let's just talk to Jose directly next on Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. You know what time it is. It's summer in Arizona. You've got to have the Parker & Sons phone number ready to go. Air conditioning in Phoenix is too important to trust anybody but the best. Parker & Sons were recommended to us when we first moved here. That was 17 years ago. They've been on time every time. They've gotten it right the first time, every time. Call 602-2REPAIR. That's 602, the number 2, then REPAIR for Parker & Sons.
Let's go, Unplugged Army. It's Angel from Burrito Express, one of the original sponsors of Doug Franz Unplugged. We got a huge event coming up, August 24th, 9 to 11 at my Tempe location on University and Rule. We've got some of the superstars right now that play for ASU and some of the future superstars of the NFL. We got free sip lemonade. We got free stickers for the kids. Get autographs, take pictures with these guys. We'd love to see you all there, August 24th.
If you haven't done it, you can read his stuff in the paper or just go to AZ Central. Jose Romero, nice enough to join us as he is, along with Nick Picoro, they are the beat reporters covering the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he is the one that may have picked up a follower or two when he basically had the exclusive video of Perdomo stepping in and kind of saving the day and saying, hey, what's going on here for Ketel Marte? And that was kind of a shocker. And then you were there 2 days ago when you were there at Chase Field and was able to listen to Ketel Marte. So first of all, the most important question, how are you and how's the family?
I love when you ask that. I'm doing fantastic. The kids are in school. I just took my son to baseball practice tonight, and everything is good in the house.
Wonderful. Now, the second question, this is something I admit I have never asked anybody this, and I have been in the business for over 30 years, but it's because this is not going to come as a shock to you. I am not bilingual unless you count 3 years of French, and I know how to hit on women because we had cheerleaders in the room, and when I was in high school, and that's all I could ever do. So I am limited. And I just kind of want to get your read on what Ketel said. I can read the translation, of course, but that's different. I want what you felt when you heard him speak.
It's interesting you ask because I asked several people this question. Did he look emotional to you? To me, he looked emotional. And to the people who I asked, I think one person said kinda, and the other three were like, no, didn't look that way to me. But in my eyes, this looked very difficult for him. It looked like he was. I asked him a question in Spanish about like how difficult has this year been for you, given everything you've gone through. And honestly, I felt to me like his eyes started to water. And maybe other people saw this completely different, but I saw somebody who in that moment was very vulnerable. He was kind of reflecting really quick on everything that's gone down. And it was a tough moment for him. I totally applaud and respect him for standing up and saying something, because I think if he didn't, and if he let this go, it gets worse. It may end up getting worse anyway, but at least Cattell stepped up and said his piece.
I'm so glad that you answered that, because I didn't know. And I know language and body language together, that's what matters. Not necessarily even the words, because I'm sure you can prep yourself. I'm sure that media relations can help prep you. You're ready to say what you think needs to be said and just get it over with. But that's what you get when the guy translates it. You know, it's not the same. And I wanted to know from you how you felt about it, which brings up a more difficult issue, because I don't know where we are in society anymore. I like to use the phrase in my day, which was funny, but if this is basically the 1930s until the year 2020 or so, maybe even before that, 2010, we would use the phrase soft. We would insult everybody. You know, we would say, this guy's soft, you can't trust him, or he's going to be too emotional. And now I don't know whether we've advanced, Jose, to a better society because we don't say that kind of thing, or if we've digressed because we're not the same. And it's like a wussification of America that's going on. How do we look at Ketel Marte? Because all we do is complain players don't care. And here's a guy that clearly cares. But does he care the way the rest of the world wants him to care? You see where I'm going? This is such a hard thing for us to look at Ketel Marte.
Yeah, you're spot on right there. And I think you and I actually talked about this the last time we spoke. I think I touched on something about Ketel needing to be a little bit more like forceful, I guess, or maybe assertive. I don't know if that's the right word, but just, you know, he's the dean of the team basically in that clubhouse. And you would think that he would take on something more of at least outspoken role. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so much of a leader, because maybe that's not him, but at least some sort of outspokenness, or just an ability to, you know, maybe bring people together more. And to see the report of people in the clubhouse and the organization being unhappy with him and frustrated with him was a little bit surprising. But then again, on the flip side of it, you can see that I think these people that said this really have higher expectations of him because he's been around and because he's been with the same manager and the same front office for all of these years, and they've believed in him and they've signed him to an extension and, you know, made him a long-term part of the team. I guess it's easy to kind of have that opinion. I guess, and what I'm trying to say is I feel like the fans and the organization need to see a little bit more just leadership out of him. Something that says I can stand on my own 2 feet and I can be like the face of this team. And he did that. He showed that a little bit yesterday. So you're totally right. I mean, the whole idea of up until 2010, something like that might have been labeled as soft, and now it's kind of accepted. Fair point.
But what I don't want to do is, I think we've all had a societal revolution that is positive, to celebrate culture and not to think everybody should be Americanified, if there's such a phrase. And I have never been to a Winter League game. I've never been to the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or Cuba or anywhere. But when I watch the Caribbean World Series, because I really do watch it, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I mean, it is absolutely crazy with the drums and the girls. And it's like, oh my gosh, it is sensory overload for me, but it's clearly fun. And I'm thinking, how can you have fun in a World Series? You know, and I'm the type of person that wants to run somebody over. And it's so weird, but I don't want to drive someone's culture out of them. And so I look at Ketel Marte, and it's a simple question. Is anybody, myself included, are we asking too much because he can't be a leader?
Again, I mean, Doug, you're just killing it with these great points here that you're making. I mean, you are right once again. I think that's something that just even though I'm bilingual, I'm Mexican American. He's Dominican. There's a vast difference between me and him.
Yeah.
So I can pick up I can pick up what he's saying and I can, translate it. But you are so right in terms of are we looking at this from a cultural perspective? Maybe the way he acts is widely accepted where he's from, and it's totally fine with everybody back in the Dominican and elsewhere in Latin America. And just for the American, the English-speaking American audience, it's not okay. So you kind of have to look at it through two prisms here. Are we really understanding? Do we really know enough about Dominican baseball and the way that the nature of those players there and how they are? And are we applying it to Ketel? So excellent point. I mean, that is something that really has to be part of this whole discussion as well.
One of the great mistakes anybody makes when they kind of pigeonhole a culture is there are, plenty of Dominican players that, would love to rip your face off in order to win a baseball game, and that's anybody who's like that is the type of person I relate to. And that's what is so frustrating to me, because Ketel Marte is great. I mean, the guy is a Hall of Famer if he's focused. And yet after 9 years, at what point do we stop saying if and say, you know what? It's time for me. It's time to move on, because here's why. I don't want him to get the 10-5 control. And I know Jose knows this, but for those of you listening, you might not understand. Coming up early in the 2026 season, he will reach 10 years of service time. And he's been here over 9 years. That he's got plenty of the 5-year portion, which is with one franchise. That means, just like Bradley Beal, you get a no trade clause. What's different is it doesn't magically show up in your contract. It now travels with you for the rest of your life. So you can never be traded without your consent. And I got to say, Jose, after the great reporting of Nick Picoro, I feel like you can't let him get to that status. Is that unfair in your opinion?
I mean, it's really going to be one of the things to follow in the offseason. Now that there's been reports out there of the discontent in the clubhouse, and also that from Bob Nightingale that the team is looking to trade and will entertain offers, to trade for him. That's really going to be one of the storylines of the offseason. Do they even let him get to that 10-5 mark? Do they ship him? But I mean, how can you just get rid of a guy who's meant so much to the franchise, who's been arguably their best player for that span that he's been here?
Yes.
And who do you build around, right? I mean, you've got Corbin Carroll, and you have Ketel, and you have Geraldo Perdomo, and those are the three guys you build around if you keep all three of them. And then the rest of the guys just have to, some of them are getting advanced and more experienced, and some of these guys, now that they've made trades, are really young and need more experience. So it's just going to be it's a tough one. It's a tough one for the front office. What do they decide to do? Do they feel like this is enough of an issue to let them go?
I love how you said, there's a difference between being Dominican and being Mexican. It's no different for us, for somebody to say, well, Doug, you're an American, so you know exactly what British culture is like. And I have no idea. I eat fish and chips from time to time, but I really appreciate you saying that, because here's why. I'm forcing you to represent an entire culture, which is totally unfair, but we're friends and I owe you a beer. What about trading Ketel and what that would do to a clubhouse? It almost seems oddly cultural, because there's a very good chance, one, the people that are really frustrated with Ketel would be more of an American point of view of this is how things should be handled, and Ketel's not doing it. And that's where their frustration comes from. While we saw Perdomo wasn't lying. I mean, that was Perdomo's heart pouring out when he stood up for Ketel. And whether anybody likes it or not, that is that friendship, or is that even further? Is that cultural? Because if it's cultural, we're actually dividing cultures in the clubhouse, which is no culture. Nobody can stand if that's the case.
Yeah. I'll go back to the trade deadline, and losing Gino Suarez, I think, was not only big just for the production standpoint and the power numbers that he had, but the guy was the glue in the clubhouse. And, it seemed like a very happy place with him here. It was just kind of a more loose and jovial place to be. And Gino was a big part of that. And for whatever reason, we can sit here and talk about him, but the team didn't do so hot going up to the deadline and became stellars. Gino got shipped off to Seattle, which was great for him, but you lost a lot right there. And Perdomo may be that guy who can step up and fill that void, but it's kind of unfair to put that on him to sort of become sort of the bridge between two cultures, the Latin American guys and the American guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where it looks like it's headed here. Maybe Geraldo becomes sort of the guy in the clubhouse now, because clearly Cattell doesn't look like he's built for that. So
you're right.
It's just an interesting dynamic that we see. And this is not, I said, I think on Twitter, I said that this isn't the first time that Perdomo has come to the defense of a player, because at the trading deadline, before it, when we were in Detroit, everybody was wanting to talk to Suarez about, the possibility of getting traded. And the first guy, maybe the only guy who stepped forward and said, leave the guy alone, he just wants to focus on playing ball, was Geraldo Perdomo, saying that about Suarez. So this is clearly in Perdomo's nature to be this way. And maybe it looks like from all the responses I've seen, the fans really dig that. They're into that. They love the fact that Perdomo was the shortstop and he's become sort of the face of the team. And as far as Cattell, I hate to think that there's divisiveness as far as, ethnic background or culture or whatever, but there is just a big, big difference in the way that, both cultures, both backgrounds approach the game of baseball. And that's very clear.
This isn't even a question. I'm just going to say his name. When I say Ketel Marte, what comes to your mind?
Excellent. He's just so smooth and so good. A good fielder, excellent fielder, really good hitter, clutch hitter. He's had some big hits for the team. There's a reason that they extended him, but that's not the only thing that comes to mind. That might be the first thing, but the other things that come into mind are, let me see if I can put this the right way. Why don't you stand up for yourself when these reports started coming out? And why did it take a while for you to kind of step forward and say your piece? Now, granted, he did it, but I just wonder, like, when Perdomo was there on Sunday speaking on his behalf, Cattell maybe should have been the guy that should have been in that room with Torre Lavello, speaking his mind about the whole thing.
Very well said there. Almost the same question, but Perdomo, it's kind of interesting. As a member of the media, I think it's ridiculous when he says, leave somebody alone. It's just like, wait a minute. This is, if you don't want the media here, that's fine. And all of you can play baseball for, like you can sell your own tickets, and stuff like that. We have a job to do. They have a job to do. Yet I am just like what you mentioned, the fans. I want to see the leadership. Maybe it's misguided, but I would rather you be a leader and then let's learn how to direct the leadership than sit back and do nothing. I kind of love what Perdomo's saying. I just want him to understand, hey, we've got a job to do and we're not going to leave people alone while we do that job. How do you look at it? Because I really enjoyed your video. It's kind of the long way of me saying that.
Yeah. No, you can see Perdomo just growing right in front of our eyes. He was, a couple of years ago, he was the new guy in the clubhouse, a hot prospect. You knew that the future of the club at shortstop was with him. You could just see it. Super athletic guy, and turns out to be a pretty clutch hitter this year, especially. It's been a great year for him. And we're also seeing him grow as a person, as a leader in the clubhouse, as a voice. With so many changes to the roster and so many new guys in that room, Perdomo has become sort of a mainstay, even though he hasn't even been here that long. So I think if I was looking at it from a fan standpoint, I would say it's fantastic to see somebody say something.
Mm-hmm.
And from a journalist standpoint, I don't think that the fans were really fair to Nick Pecoro. I saw a lot of negativity toward him about what he reported. And you and I, speaking as media people, he was doing his job. And I didn't like to see that from the fans, but I do like to see the passion that they have about Perdomo.
I hate to say it. You're a nicer person than I am, so I'll say it. I thought the fans that had a problem with Nick showed their own butt. I mean, they showed that they're soft, and that's where it's not cultural. That's just fact, because it's really simple. If this is New York, if this is Philly, oh my goodness, with the difference. And Nick, in his article, maybe I need to read it again. I never read 1 ounce of opinion. There was 0 opinion that slipped in there. It was, here's what this group of people think. Here's what this group of people think. And it's clear that that's going on. And what do you think a reporter's job is? The word is reporter, one who reports. You're reporting what you have been told, what you have seen, what you are doing in that clubhouse. It's not good reporting. It's A+ reporting in my mind.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. I mean, whether you call it him putting himself out there on a line like that, he's doing his job, and it's hard to kind of educate readers and fans, exactly all of the ins and outs of the job. But you just hope that all you can really hope for is that there's some understanding out there about these are things that are going on in the clubhouse. Nick clearly has his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the clubhouse, and that came through.
Yes. And a lot of us do to a point, but either not to Nick's point or we didn't do a good job reporting, one or the other. And Nick did it. So if you're ever, at the Arizona Republic Christmas party, make sure that he knows the Unplugged Army's overwhelmingly impressed with what he did. Other than that, how's the team? I mean, hey, we won last night. Finally, the losing streak is over. Are we going to the playoffs, Jose? Can we believe?
I think, people can look back at some series that really didn't go well for them, like Houston and, some of the opportunities that they had to kind of climb back in the race. We both know they're still alive in this thing. They've been in a situation like this before, even as recently as a couple of years ago, where they were just kind of treading water and then all of a sudden got hot. So there's always that possibility, but it feels different this year because, 7 games out going into Wednesday and 7 or 6.5. But it just feels like that losing 3 out of 4 in Colorado, where you really needed to or had an opportunity to sweep that series or at least win that series, that was pretty rough. Those are games that need to be won against a team you can beat, and they did sweep them at home. So. And then the schedule only gets tougher going forward, right? So, the finish up with the Guardians. You got the Reds, who are fighting for a playoff spot. They're looking pretty good. The Dodgers aren't rolling over. They want to get this division clinched. The Red Sox are going to be in town. So, a lot of tough games coming up for a roster that's young, that doesn't have as much veteran leadership as it did before. And so, and then the pitching, we can sit here and talk for hours about the bullpen. Starting pitching's been solid, but the bullpen, it looked good for a little while, then it blew up in Colorado, and that's a big question mark.
A lot of people are all over Mike Hazen for the bullpen, and my opinion is when we're looking at this team and everybody wants to use injuries as an excuse, I get upset because in April and May, they were throwing the ball to the wrong base. They were booting the baseball. They were having horrific at-bats. They were making mistakes all over the base paths. It was a team that was unfocused. So, yeah, it stinks to lose 2 major arms in Puck and Martinez from the bullpen, but you were losing games for so many other reasons. However, now that they've kind of cleaned some of that up, I do look at the bullpen as a disaster, but I don't blame Hazen because now it's a legitimate excuse when you lose your 2 best arms and your team stunk going into the deadline and you trade other people. Guess what happens? You have a minor league bullpen now. That's my thought. What do you, when you look at the bullpen, do you have somebody that you point the finger at?
No, you're right. I mean, you're exactly right about all that. If you look at this bullpen now and, some of these guys were basically unheard of. Some guys have, they've kind of picked up off the street and trying to make do with experienced guys plus young guys, trying to give them an opportunity and maybe look at them for next year. It's tough. I mean, Hazen did pick up a lot of pitching at the deadline, which, is probably wise on his part, just because you just hope that a couple of those guys end up being really solid contributors down the road. But yeah, I mean, it's tough not to look at this bullpen and point the finger. However, you have to look at it in the sense that, are these guys really major league ready? Some of these guys that they're putting in there.
Something kind of interesting, and feel free, you don't have to give me credit, just buy me a beer someday if you like this. Here is the slash line for Ketel in August is 333, 417, 517. Hello. However, the slash line since after Nick's article came out is 263, 333, 474. Now, there's a lot of people in baseball that would like Ketel's slash line, but that's a significant drop from where he was. Yet, Perdomo in that same time frame of when Nick's article came out, 304, 448, and 522. Perdomo's not somebody you look at and normally say that's a 3-4-5 slash guy, but we might be looking at something where the upset version of Perdomo is better than the average happy-go-lucky version of Perdomo. And there's a crazy idea here. He might come to like that. He might say, you know what, I could be happy-go-lucky until the game starts and become Angry Jerry during the game, and we might have something we never knew we had.
Yeah, it's been quite a year for him. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's turned into an RBI machine. He's turned into a good contact hitter. He's become a guy that, they're putting him now. I think at the beginning of the year, they had him down in the 9-hole, and now he's up there at the top. I mean, this is a guy that has really come on as a player. And yeah, maybe you're onto something there. Like maybe the emotion of starting to, take over the clubhouse and become sort of a leader in that clubhouse is something he's feeding off of, and he's getting good numbers out of it. I mean, that's really fair to ask and fair to observe. And I still don't think they've even scratched the surface with him yet. Like I think he still has a lot more upside because he's still so young. And this is a guy that is rounding into sort of an all-around guy, a good clubhouse presence and a heck of a player.
This is not I guess it's speculation, but I'm going to ask this in the way that I'm not asking your opinion on should he be fired. You're a reporter. That's not fair. They don't pay you to be a columnist. And then if you give your opinions too often, guess what? You end up like me and you're doing a show from your wife's basement. But if you had to guess on like a scale of 1 to 10, where is your confidence that Torey will be back next year? Not what they should do in your opinion, but where do you think this is going? Because fans and some media are losing their mind, but I don't get the feeling that the front office is losing their mind right now.
I think you're right. And I think you have to let it sort of play out and see how this thing goes with Ketel, and give everybody involved a chance to kind of like let things simmer down, get through the season, see how far you get, see how far you can make it up to mathematical elimination or what have you. But I do think that there's something to be said about the kinship, the brotherhood that Mike Hazen and Torey Lovullo have formed. And, those two guys are attached. They're attached at the hip, basically. And there is really something to be said there. You have to consider the loyalty that both guys have for each other. I mean, they're practically family. They spend so much time with each other. And I know that, just from a personal standpoint, I know that they both mean a lot to each other. So that's one of the big things you have to look at. You have to consider who you want to bring back next year. How do you move past this issue with Ketel if they feel that there is one? And then can this organization move forward with Torey still in charge and still, maintain calmness and levity and harmony in that clubhouse?
Because I told this to my listeners earlier this week. I said, if I'm the general manager of the Diamondbacks and my wife's alive, I fire Torey Lovullo. With my wife having passed, and that man would have been the one that was there for me more than any other human being, I would resign before I'd do it. If the owner wanted me to do it, I would probably resign. I would say, listen, I'm not even disagreeing with you, Mr. Owner, Mr. Kendra. I'm not even saying you're wrong to say fire Torey Lovullo. I just know after what I've been through with him, I couldn't do it. And when I told everyone that, I was like, listen, this pains me as a talk show host to even say I love Torey Lovullo, but it's a story that is impossible to write, in my opinion, of can Mike Hazen, who gets paid to win games and do what's best for the organization, actually, A, think that it's best for the organization, which is hard enough, and then B, actually act on those thoughts if he believes they've got to move on from Torey. I think it's almost asking too much from a normal person.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a really, really good point there. Mike has been just so fantastic with some of the deals and the trades he's made. I mean, you know, the success rate has got to be pretty high when it comes to the moves that he's made. And you have to, you know that the Diamondbacks know that they have somebody really quality in him as a general manager. And the question is, do they all still believe in Torey that he still can be that caliber of manager going forward?
That's a great conversation. Anything to plug? You were secretly working on a book or anything in life? Any event you've got? Do you have a slow pitch softball game you want people to show up for? Like what's going on in the life of Jose?
Not too much. Found out today that there's going to be a pretty big soccer match coming to town in October. It's two of the most popular teams in Mexico, Club America and Chivas de Guadalajara. So that's going to be October 11th. I'm really excited about that. I missed the Gold Cup here when it was here in the summer because I was out of town for a baseball trip.
Is that game going to be in Glendale?
Yeah, that'll be at State Farm when the Cardinals are out of town.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's something that came across today, and I wrote about it, and I'm excited for that because, I'm a big soccer guy. I think when I'm not following baseball closely, I'm really into soccer and the NFL.
Are you going to any World Cup games?
That is the plan. I've already started trying to figure out how that's gonna go down. I don't know exactly how I'm going to be able to. I would love to be able to do it and still get paid.
Yes.
But I don't know. We have to wait and see on that conversation. But yeah, tickets are going to be going on sale for the World Cup in September. And I'm really looking forward to that. That is a once in a lifetime, definitely a bucket list thing for me.
I went to Russia versus Sweden in Detroit for the World Cup. So I've been to one, loved every second of it, and I'm still in negotiations with my wife for 26, and I think I'm going to lose. So I don't know how we're going to pull that off because that's going to be our 30th wedding anniversary, and I think she would rather do something else for our 30th wedding anniversary. I don't think she sees any romance in that.
Yeah, we got to take the kids to Disneyland in December, so that's going to be extended.
Well, why'd you go to a USMNT game and then do Disneyland that weekend? They have 2 games in LA. There you go.
Well, we always go in December because it's cooler.
Of course.
We don't want to go. We don't want to go like in the dead of summer. Although the crowds might be down because people will be at the soccer game.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, man. Great to talk to you. My best to you, my friend, and thanks for giving. I love these conversations because you and I can go places that a lot of other shows are too afraid to because we both have good hearts. Thanks for your time, my friend.
Really appreciate it, Dad. I'll see you soon.
That was deep, huh? Hopefully you loved Jose Romero as much as I did having him on. Thanks for listening to Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. Don't forget, Whirlwind Golf Club fantasy draft still available. It's going to go on until obviously game 1 of the season. That first Thursday night, you can have your fantasy draft at Whirlwind, wings and loaded nachos, and it's only $100 for a weekend, $75 during the week, and then you get a round of golf. You can golf first and draft. You can draft first and then golf whatever you want. Wow. I can't wait to do it with you coming up on Saturday. Hopefully you're a part of it. Diamondbacks a 6-5 winner. Here's Torey Lovullo when he first sat down with the media.
It's good to get back on in the win column. After 4 grinding losses and some baseball games that we were in, and I felt quite frankly we should have been winning. It was nice to go out and execute and win a 1-run baseball game. Those seemed to build a little bit of momentum. It was touch and go there, but we had Kyle Backus come in and get a massive out. Sal Frank with a pretty clean 9th inning. So, lowered our heart rates there a little bit in the 9th inning with him going out and executing a 1-2-3 inning for the save. Prior to that, I think we had some stubborn at bats. We kind of hung in there. Jake with the big solo home run, another heady play to get on base via the bunt, and you can see what we're trying to do. We're trying to just be a little bit gritty, not rely on the long ball, score runs by building innings. Gurriel with a massive 2-run single. Just the guys went out and played hard, and that's one of my asks every single day. And we're going to win some baseball games because we're a good baseball team. We've just hit a little bit of bad luck. We haven't played great baseball. We haven't got good pitching. There's an assortment of things, and as we tighten that up, we're going to go out and execute and win baseball games. Erod, I thought, was fantastic today. Once again, I said in pregame, it's the 0-2. The 0-2 pitches that we got to tighten up was an 0-2 changeup that got hit for that 2-run home run. But outside of that, I don't think there were a lot of mistakes. He was doing a really nice job of balancing a lineup that he typically has handled well, but you don't take that for granted. But he pitched into the 7th inning, did his job, and turned it over to the bullpen that saved the game for us.
The only thing that really drives me nuts about that is, why are we making it sound like Erod did a good thing? 6 2/3 of an inning, he gave up 4 earned runs. Like, you're not going to cut a guy who does that, but really praising him and acting like that was a great thing. I mean, it's always good when a pitcher goes 7 innings, but he didn't go 7 innings, number one. But number two, 4 earned runs is a lot. I mean, I'm not going to do the math in my head, but it's got to be about a 6 ERA, maybe a little less. So we're happy that a pitcher's got about a 5.75 ERA. We're excited. Hey, he kept us in the ball game. He kept you in the ball game. But what are you paying him to do? I mean, I love Torrey. I love Torrey, even though I'm kind of souring on the whole thing, but I just don't understand. Maybe that's why things don't go our way, because the bar isn't being raised. Now, one thing that was fantastic about the game was Corbin Carroll. 2 triples in the game. He was already sitting on his career high, so now he's got 2 more triples to add to the career high. And he did something that ESPN had as a cool stat. 27 homers, 16 triples. He's the 13th player in baseball history to do that. Now, there's been thousands upon thousands of Major League Baseball players, so from that standpoint, 13 isn't, I mean, it's exclusive, but it's not like revolutionary. But then I read this. Jimmy Rollins did it in 2007. And before that, it wasn't done since 1965. So from 65 on, there's only 2. Well, now that kind of sheds, that puts it in a different light. Are you with me on that? 2 guys in 60 some odd years do it? Okay, that's real. That's a real stat. 27 homers, 16 triples. That's where Corbin Carroll is. Torrey was asked if he's just amazed and surprised at the numbers that Corbin Carroll does. And I kind of liked his answer. It's almost as if I've seen it. I can't be amazed anymore because I wrongly expect it.
No, because he has brought me to that level already, and I sit in that space where he is massive. He's a massive cat out there, and I don't know how else to put it. 2 triples, set a franchise record, steaming around the bases is in 11 and a half seconds. It's just remarkable what he's capable of doing, and he will tell you that he's going to get better. So I'll go ahead and echo that too. when he gets more experience and learns himself a little bit more, he's going to be even better, which is very scary. And I'm honored to be his manager and watch him from the space that I get to watch him in.
That is so cool. Corbin Carroll getting better. And it's totally true. It is totally true. That is worth the price of admission right there. A couple things about the game specifically. One thing that I found really interesting, bottom of the sixth, Alek Thomas is at the plate. And Cleveland puts in a left-handed reliever. The same left-handed reliever came in 2 days ago. When that left-handed reliever, I forget the dude's name, Scalabrini or something? Sabrowski. When Sabrowski came in 2 days ago, they took out Pavin Smith and brought in Locklear. And I told you how ridiculous I thought that was, because you're doing it, I understand, left on right, but Locklear is even worse against left-handed pitching. He's got a reverse split, and he's just terrible overall. And he didn't do it with Alek Thomas and let Alek Thomas bat left on left, and Thomas popped up. Now, there could be a little bit of defense on the mind of Torey Lovullo, because it's only the sixth inning. So that means if you would have taken Alek Thomas out of the game, you've got 3 innings in which you more than likely have put Locklear in for Thomas, but you move Corbin Carroll to center and you put Pavin Smith in right. You've weakened your outfield defense, and Pavin Smith hasn't really practiced in the outfield in a long time. In the offseason, it was, Pavin, you're going to be given a chance to compete for the first base job or kind of do a platoon with Josh Naylor. And for the first month and a half or so, whatever it was, Pavin Smith was a force. And then Pavin Smith was doing terribly and then got hurt. So I can understand Torey might be saying, no, I don't want to make the substitution here, not for offensive strategic reasons, but for defensive strategic reasons. But if it had anything to do with offense, it is interesting to note, okay, you maybe learned your lesson and didn't go with Locklear again. There's 2 issues defensively that I want to do a little bit of a deep dive. Well, first one isn't a deep dive. Jones hits Nolan Jones hit a ground ball in the second. Erod late to get over there. That drives me crazy. So Jones was safe. However, Erod just struck out the next guy, but still, that's about 5 more pitches that he didn't need to throw. There was a play that really bothered me. I wouldn't say really bothered me, because on the one hand, I know that I'm expecting too much, but I want to explain it more so you understand the incredibleness of Derek Jeter. So Pavin Smith's at first base and ball hit to the right side. Pavin dives for it in order to be able to stop the play. And I think it was Nolan Jones as well who hit it. And in the attempt to then throw the runner out, which was Santana, the ball goes past Pavin Smith, and now Nolan Jones gets second on the throw. Pavin Smith's job there is certainly sell out, try to get the ground ball. Maybe you save a run, and because there's already 2 outs. Great attempt. He doesn't get it. He stays down for a long time. Like, he doesn't pop back up. He needs to pop back up because he is the cutoff man. So Corbin Carroll's job is to throw it right at his head. Not at his own head. That was poor antecedent. It's Corbin Carroll's job to throw it right at Pavin Smith's head. So therefore, if Pavin Smith doesn't cut it off, it's headed for the plate. But if Pavin Smith judges we can get an out on the bases, I can cut it off. That keeps the runner from trying to go to second because he knows the ball can be cut off. But it was clear that Nolan Jones saw Pavin Smith still laying there and he rounded first and he went to second. So here's what I mean by Jeter. Famous play against the Oakland A's in which it's just called the flip. Derek Jeter reads the play so well, he's in the wrong spot. Catches a ball that's thrown in from the outfield, flips it to Jorge Posada. They tag out Giambi. They get an out at the plate that saves the game, basically. It is the single smartest play I've ever seen in baseball history. Smart because Derek Jeter broke all the rules. Like, you're not supposed to be there. That's not where the shortstop goes. Yet he read the play that well. It wasn't like he was wandering around and he was just in the right place at the right time, like the wrong place at the right time, and he saves the day. He read the play. He read the throw. He figured out what was about to happen as it was happening in real time and put himself there in a crazy spot. I wanted Ketel to do that right there. I want to be fair. It is not Ketel's job to be the cutoff man. When there's a runner at second, 2 outs, and a ground ball through the infield that goes to the outfield, the first baseman is the cutoff for every outfielder unless the ball goes deeply into left field. Then the third baseman's the cutoff man. So Corbin did his job. Pavin's supposed to be the cutoff man. But what I would have loved is for Ketel Marte to be so focused at a Derek Jeter level to notice, wait a minute, I don't really have a total spot here, because Ketel's job, in all seriousness, is to go out and be the cutoff man for a play at third. Even though it sounds weird, there is no play at third. It's the just in case there's a play at third. Maybe Corbin Carroll bobbles it. And if he bobbles it, maybe Nolan's going to try to get to third. But it's the job of the shortstop to be covering second. And that's what the second baseman now does, is to go out and be the cutoff man for a play at third. But Corbin Carroll, he collects the ball cleanly and he throws it to where Pavin Smith is supposed to be. And Pavin Smith isn't there. Incredibly crazy high-level baseball IQ, if you're Ketel Marte, is to notice, hey, Pavin Smith's not getting this. Now, there's there's a rule in football, do your job. Ketel Marte did his job. I don't have a right to lose my mind over this. I'm mostly bringing this up to you, really, if you ever go back and watch on YouTube the flip, if you just write Derek Jeter the flip into the search, you'll see the play. It's incredible. It's still I'm gushing even thinking about it, because I love brilliant baseball. I love brilliant high IQ players. But that would have been one play where breaking the rule would have been fantastic, and you would have kept the runner on first base. Did it matter? No. The next guy grounded out. But that's like that next level of baseball that I just don't feel like Ketel's going to get to. Keep in mind, we're talking about a guy that might slash 300, 400, 500 this year. Batting average, on base percentage, slugging. That is an elite baseball player. I just think he's an elite designated. By the way, his defense has gotten so much better this last month. He's been really good. But having said that, it is why I think he's an elite designated hitter. Put him at second every now and then to give your second baseman a rest. And you've got to surround him with leadership and stars, because he needs to be lost in a group of stars. If he's your best player, I don't think you're a playoff team. All right, coming up next. Sorry for the long show, but I thought I thought Jose was fantastic, right? And I still have a little bit of ASU and golf to talk about before versus Vegas. It's Doug Franz Unplugged, presented by Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass.
Here is Sue Rigler on starting 100 Mile Brewing Company.
What started 100 Mile Brewing Company is I actually have a degree in microbiology from ASU. go Devils. And went back to school. I found out that UC San Diego had a brewing program, so I enrolled in that. And with the intention of opening a brewery, I came back to Tempe because it's Sun Devil country. I wanted to open a brewery in Tempe, which fresh, it never gets old is our tagline. And I'm pretty much a stickler about fresh beer. It's got to be fresh. Otherwise, it's not going to be served here.
I received a very fair criticism from listener Tim. I'll give you the whole story coming up on Town Hall Tuesday next week. But it was basically, hey, Doug, you said you were going to cover a lot of U of A, and I know that Coach Brennan's boring, but I'm not getting it. What's going on? And great question. My reasoning is this. I'm not playing a lot, assistant coaches from ASU, not playing a lot of players from ASU. I was going to play head coaches. And I don't know what's going on at U of A. Brent Brennan is either not talking to the media or he's not being recorded and posted. And U of A has been one of the best in the country at recording and posting. And I go to their YouTube page every day. I go to their website every day. And that's my way of knowing what's going on. And so I thought I was being fair. Hey, if their coach doesn't want to talk, I'm going to play the coach that is talking. Yet, I think you're right, Tim. I think you're right. So I got to make an exception. I wasn't going to play assistant coaches because I wanted to try to cut down on hours a little bit, to be honest with you. And I thought that was a way to shave some hours because you can imagine if I'm listening to assistant coach interviews too, then that adds about an hour and a half to the prep time for the show. And I thought, I'll just do head coaches this year. And then I was kind of blaming U of A. Well, fine. If you don't want your head coach to talk, I won't talk about you. But you're right. I'm letting you down, not me or U of A. They could care less, but I'm letting down you. So, yeah, I'll start doing that a little more often. I didn't do it today, though. Now I am getting to the Kenny Dillingham. Lot to talk about with Kenny. He was a little bit on fire yesterday, and he announced that camp is over. Starting tomorrow, or in a sense, starting today, we're now here mostly for NAU. And time to really focus on what it's like to be in a game week. So then he was asked, okay, what is that switch? Now that you are having a different focus, what is the focus once camp ends?
Well, the biggest difference is you split up scouts. And then on top of splitting up scouts, you shrink your playbook. I mean, we could probably run a combination, if we really wanted to, of 1,000 plays. Now, that's way too many, right, on offense. We're going to shrink that down to 60, 70, right? So what you have is this huge arsenal in camp that you pull from and you challenge guys to learn and you want them to fail, and then you give them comfort in a game week. So the biggest difference I would say is things should be sharper. There should be less MAs. The detail on things should be better because you're focusing on those 65 plays. I know you're focusing on those 14, 12, whatever that number is in a game plan calls on D, and you're adjusting them. So everything should be smoother and cleaner when you get to a game week.
I just thought you might like that to actually hear a coach say, we have about 1,100 plays. Now, what he means by that is you might have one play, but you can run it out of 2 or 3 different formations. So he's counting all of that at the same time, the play and the formation and then the combination. But think about that. They go from about 1,100 plays to 70 for game week. Here's the ones we're going to install and really work on excelling at. And then he admits we put stuff in for them to fail. So they understand it, so they get it, so we can test them, so we can see where they're at, so we can make decisions on, what if out of nowhere we want to call a play that's not in the game plan? Do you have the recall to be able to execute it? It's a big deal in college sports because you might be watching the game and hey, here's a set of plays or here's a play that's going to work in the second half. But you're already in the second half. You can't practice it. The last time you worked on it was maybe some type of spring ball, and then you call it. Now, do you have the players on the field that can handle that? If you don't, Are you going to call a play that you're not sure if they can run? Are you going to risk it? Or are you going to trust them? You know the people that are out there. It's really a fascinating portion of the game. It's not just, this play will work. It's, can your players execute it even without practice time? So somebody else asked him an interesting question. Now that you said camp's over, what kind of concerns you? What do you need to work on from here on out?
I'd say the initial instinct to run to the football. I think that's a little bit down. I think that initial instinct to run to the football and that drive on every single rep to run to the football is down. Now, it was really, really high in the middle of the camp, so that kind of naturally you would think happens, but it's a little bit down. I want to make sure we get that back before week 1, that passionate want to go get the ball. That's how big plays are denied, and that's how big plays happen.
I just love that phrase. That's how big plays are denied, and that's how big plays happen. When you don't have that relentless pursuit. And I'm a little shocked that that's his concern. I mean, this is a guy that's all about hustle and all about coaching energy, effort, and energy. And then for him, of all people, to say it's not where it should be, that was kind of interesting. So I forget this question. I don't remember the question. And honestly, he answered the question and it took about, I don't know, about like a 2 or 3 minute answer. And the first 90 seconds were just not all that important to me. But then in the middle, he got really passionate. And I thought you would want to hear this.
There's been a bunch of growth for the team. I've been very happy with where we're at. And like I told the guys after it, we have talent. We beat a lot of teams that were talented last year because we played harder than them. And if we don't play harder than the opponent, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to continue to reiterate that from now till forever. You got to play hard. And that's going to be the testament of this football team is how hard do we play? How much are we not willing to lose? What will you do to not lose? Like, what will you do to not lose? And that's a testament of a good team.
Did you find that as interesting as I did? The reason why I found it interesting is how often do we hear the phrase playing not to lose as this massive negative phrase? You got to play to win the game. You play to win the game. You don't play it not to lose. Because that's a phrase that kind of means you're gripping, you're scared, you're worried. So you do something a little different or you get overprotective. So you're playing not to lose. And even though it's a figure of speech, it was interesting because I think where Kenny is coming from is it's more motivating to have a hatred of losing. Your hatred for losing will drive you further than your passion for winning. At least that's how it is with me. Man, I can't stand losing. I can't stand losing. I'll never forget. McKenna's, I don't know how old she was. She was only like 11 or 12. And she said this. I just thought it was awesome. She says, there are 3 things I hate: inequality, inefficiency, and losing. I mean, for a kid that age, not only to drop 2 things as important as the first 2, but then to throw that last one out there when you're thinking it's going to be some amazing Gandhi-ish line to finish it off. What goes after inequality and inefficiency? What beautiful human trait can we... Losing. Okay. But that's kind of what we're going for here, is what Kenny Dillingham is talking about, is losing. What are you going to do to make sure we don't lose? What are you willing to give? One of the things that he's done, guess what? He turned the air conditioning off. He never says Mississippi State in this answer, but he's talking about the conditions inside their bubble. And even though he doesn't say Mississippi State, he's talking about a late afternoon kickoff in September in Mississippi.
Yeah, we're just trying, we haven't had rain here, which is, we didn't have rain up north. And playing in like post-rain or post-monsoon or just humid environments is a little bit different. It's a little stickier. So, we turn the AC off in here and we got some air, or we got some of these fans that blow some water in the air. We'll keep this rocking until Saturday. So we'll try to have one more practice on Saturday when we get back. And hopefully it'll be way hotter in here and way stickier, because I want our guys to get used to playing in different environments. Like I told them, the last 3 days of camp are really, we're not game planning a team, but we're FIB soloing a wide receiver. What are we going to do on defense? Unbalanced, how are we going to play a team that does that? All right, it's sticky and humid. How are we going to play in those environments? A little different. We're just trying to take these last bits of camp and really put ourselves in situations that we're going to be in throughout the season this year. Not specifically one game, but just in general.
Can I just tell you how thrilled I am of the time I spent with Jason Mons in the offseason, learning the offense. I say it like we had a weekly meeting. I was in there for a couple hours one day. I should have made it sound like that. Kind of pulled a Brian Williams a little bit. But I'm so thrilled because he said something there, and I'm not trying to be arrogant here. I'm the only guy in town that's going to be able to tell you what he was talking about. Nobody else will know. So everybody else in the media is going to act like, oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. But he said there at the end, what are we going to do? We're going to throw at you. We're going to FIB a receiver solo, a solo receiver. How are we going to react to that? Well, in their playbook, they have the name of the play, but then sometimes they'll add the word fib, FIB. That stands for formation into the boundary. And what he's saying is, if we do that solo in this tight area, because in college football, and a lot of you know this, but I want to help those that don't, the hash marks are much further apart than in the NFL. It makes it a harder game in the NFL because it's easier to disguise your coverages when you have, almost equal parts of the field. But in college football, with the hash marks so wide, hard to hide your coverages. And most teams don't play with a left corner and a right corner in college football. They play with a boundary corner and a field corner. Your field corner, you want a little faster because there's more room that he's going to have to cover. There's more area. The field, you think about the balls on the right hash, everything to the quarterback's left, your defense is right, is all of that territory to run. We need a faster corner over there. However, your boundary corner, you kind of want them a little stronger because a lot of times a team might run the ball into the boundary because they're trying to get that tiny edge. And if they can bust it, you're too crowded. There's too many people. It's kind of like a Yogi Berra joke. There's too many. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Well, it's almost like you're running the football into a crowd and no one will think you'll do it. But because there's so many people, you can't actually get your hands on the running back. There's too many dudes in your way. It's easier for the offense to block because it's almost like building a wall that one guy escapes out of before the wall gets completed. So when you look at it through that prism, that's what he's talking about. Is if I'm running this receiver into this boundary, what is our boundary corner going to do? What's my linebacking core going to do? What are we looking for? And those are the things that he's throwing at people. And I just thought that was so cool when he said that. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. The last one from CKD that I thought that was important for you is Craig Fouie of ABC 15 asked him about all of the preseason predictions. Last week, I played a similar quote to you from Kenny Dillingham when he said he's preparing the team to understand how hard it is to win back-to-back. And he talked about how it doesn't happen at ASU very often, and you have the chance to rewrite history. This time, the answer is similar, but he goes even deeper. So that's why I thought you might enjoy it, of preseason predictions and living up to the preseason prediction. And this is just, to me, another example of the way Kenny talks to his team I really feel like young men are almost more prepared to overcome hurdles because Kenny's already told them they're there, as opposed to the hurdle popping up 3 games into the season, and now it's wreaked havoc for a week.
I showed it to him. I said, guys, it's hard. It's hard. We live in a great city. And when you have success, one of the negatives of living in my opinion, it's my favorite city, right? Born and raised here, so I'm jealous. But one of the negatives of it is there's so many things to do and there's so many distractions that once you have success, everybody talks about you, right? You're in a major city, but you're a college town, and you're still kind of a pro team in a major city. So you get the pub of this, you're the superstars of this major city, you can get to do a bunch of things, and you got to be able to understand that, it's so temporary, right? What comes fast can go fast just like that. So we've talked a lot about teams have not won, only one team has won the Big 12 outright in back-to-back seasons in the history of the Big 12. Nobody's done it. Our program has not succeeded having 2 seasons like we just had back-to-back, right? So it's just having them understand how challenging what they're about to do is, and how if you don't focus on the right now, if you don't put in the work, right, there's a reason history repeats itself. It's not an accident. So we have a tough task because we're trying to break 50 years of history, and I want to make sure they understand how difficult it is to break 50 years of history, right? And it's very challenging, and we got a tough task.
I love that because it's almost as if he's saying, listen, it's the wrong reason to fight in order to get recognition. Because if you fail, not only are you not going to get the recognition, but the recognition is going to be negative anyway. And then it's just going to be apathetic. This city will forget you. So don't worry about all of that. Sure, it's great, it's wonderful, but don't worry about it. I mean, it's almost like a lesson for all of us. I can tell you, I don't want to act like I know this to their level, to the athletes' level of the cheers and the rush and the fans and everybody wanting a piece of you and everybody loving you, and then it's gone. But I feel a little of that. And it took me a little while to understand how important you are. Because gosh, when everybody's coming up to me, oh, hey, you're Doug for Doug Love, oh my God, and all that, it's kind of like, yeah, great. Yeah, I'm Doug. I just like to have a beer with my wife, please. I was kind of like that, but it wasn't an act, but it was almost like I had to play a role sometimes. And at the same time, I liked it. It's kind of both at the same time. And then suddenly, from all the people that are actually in the industry, radio people, radio sales people, television people, media relations people, and all of a sudden, I'm a nobody. And they don't want to have, they don't reach out, they don't talk. It's just, you're just nothing. Since I can't do as much for them as I used to be able to do, it was clear my friendship with them wasn't what I thought. And when I talk like this, I want you to know 2 things. Number 1, nothing ever changed between Wolf and I. Okay, that's really important for you to know. Number 2, there are 2 members in the media in this town that I would almost take a bullet for, and that is Cam Cox of CBS or of 12 News and Mark McClune of CBS 5. They were, everything they can do to help promote this podcast, they are willing to do. And the fact that both of them put me on TV, I'm on 12 News coming up this Saturday and every Saturday and Sunday night. And that helps promote the podcast. And then all of the spring in college hoop, I'm on with CBS 5. And that's, I hope I do a good job on that, but that's all the friendship I have with Mark McClune and with Cam Cox. That's why I'm on. I know that. And I just owe them everything. But my point is, It's so fleeting. Fame is so fleeting. And to be able to teach 20, 21, 22-year-old kids this is so powerful of Kenny Dillingham. Don't worry about all that, because they'll drop you like a bad habit. I've never said that in my life. I've heard that a million times. I've never actually said it. If you're not in it for you and for us, that's powerful. And I do believe it helps them overcome or be prepared for whatever is about to happen this year. Okay, I'm jacked up to talk to you about the event at Whirlwind on Saturday and Burrito Express on Sunday. So that's coming up in versus Vegas. But before I get to that, I just wanted to take a second and talk golf, because there's two things that Rory said that I found interesting. But I understand if you're not into golf, this sounds funny. Go ahead and leave. Go ahead and I don't really want to say that. Go ahead and fast forward into versus Vegas. Please listen to versus Vegas today. But the thing, Rory was asked about the issues that are going on right now with the format for the Tour Championship. I told you last week just how dumb they're doing the Tour Championship. They decided they don't like the old system, which was a new invention of, okay, all season long you're fighting for a lead, and then in order to show who's ahead in FedEx Cup points, you start with a 2-shot lead over second place, and then second place has a 1-shot, blah blah blah, and you had a staggered lead before you ever swung a club, and then everybody else decided, no, that's dumb, we don't like that, and now they just have an event. But it's kind of silly, because if Scottie Scheffler doesn't win the Tour Championship this weekend in Atlanta, it'll seem so dumb, because no one's going to look at whoever wins and say, well, you were better than Scottie this year. And that's what a championship is. You're supposed to be the best for the year. And yet they just want to have a golf tournament. It's really stupid, in my opinion. Well, Rory was asked, what does he think about it, or what would he do? And I want you to notice two things. Not only what he says, but just how hard it is for him to say it. He stumbles around his words a lot in this answer. And it's almost as if he knows that he might say something he shouldn't say, or he's going to piss somebody off.
I didn't, I may be part of the minority. I didn't hate the starting strokes. I thought that the player that played the best, during the course of the season should have had an advantage coming in here. But, the majority of people just didn't like the starting strokes. They didn't, whether it were players or fans. I was on the pack when we were trying to go through that, and, really it was just a way to try to simplify the advantage that the top players were going to get over the course of the week. Instead of Steve Sands doing calculations on a whiteboard. So, and then, but you could also argue that if it was starting strokes this week, Scottie with a 2-shot lead, it probably isn't enough, considering, what he's done this year and the lead that he has in the FedEx Cup going into this week. So, and look, there was a lot of other stuff on the table. Match play was on the table, and that got canned for this year. That might be brought back up in the conversation going into next year or the year after. I think it's just hard for the players to reconcile that we play stroke play for every week of the year, but then the season-ending tournament is going to be decided by match play. I think it was just hard for the players to get their heads around that. So I don't know, maybe that'll be on the table again, who knows. But look, it's a 72-hole stroke play event, and that's what we play week in and week out, and that's what's going to determine the winner. So I don't know if it's the best format, but it's the one that we have for this week.
I just laugh at this because to me it is so simple. I mean, so simple. Match play with a combination of a starting hole only for number one. Here's how you do it. I don't have the bracket in front of me. I don't know. I can't set it up perfectly. But you set it up that the tournament actually starts on a Wednesday. And the bracket is set so that the top 4 seeds don't play until Friday. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, they play on Friday. However, if you're the 1 seed, you would play the 8 seed. If all the seeds held, you would play the 8 seed on Friday. But I would say that you get a tremendous advantage. You're already up 2 up. You're up 2 holes as the number 1 player. Now, if you don't know what match play is, instead of me counting all of my strokes versus all of your strokes, it's whoever wins each hole. So if I get a par, you get a bogey, I win the hole, and it doesn't matter how I did it. It doesn't matter bogey versus par. I'm up. I'm 1 up on you. And if you win the next hole by getting an eagle and I get a birdie, it doesn't matter that I've only, hit, let's say, 3 strokes on the second hole compared to my 4 strokes on the first hole. That doesn't matter. It matters that you won that hole. So now we're called all squared. Well, I would give the number 1 seed the advantage of having a 2-hole lead. I would give seeds 3, 2, and 3. I would give them the advantage of being up 1 stroke. Now, 2 would obviously get a little bit of a better advantage because they would play a weaker opponent in whoever was ranked 7th versus the 3 seed who's playing somebody that's ranked 6th. The 4 seed, I would not give them the lead at all, but they get the advantage of not having to play until Friday. While the guy that they're supposed to play based on seed, the 5 seed, he had to play Thursday. I think it's great that way. It would be amazing to do it that way. I think it's a no-brainer. You have match play and you have a couple starting strokes and you get a bye. But if you're a sponsor, you're still happy because Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy are playing on Friday. Now, if they lose, they lose, but that becomes exciting too. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is when the big boys play. And you can invite, some 64 odd people or whatever. Obviously less than 64, but on Wednesdays, 1 round. And then maybe Thursday, there's 2 rounds. You have to play 36 holes. Something like that. I love this idea. I don't think it's that hard. All right, the next one is just Rory having fun. Some woman asked him, did he bring the green jacket to Northern Ireland? Did he have a lot of friends that wanted to wear it? What's he done with the green jacket? He answers that question, and then somebody asks him about memorabilia and the Masters. And in case you don't know tradition, the tradition is if I asked Rory McIlroy last year to autograph a flag, so you can buy flags that were used at Augusta. If I asked Rory to autograph a flag, he would always, every golfer that hasn't won it will autograph it out on the outer portion of the flag. But the beautiful United States logo with the flag sticking into Georgia, if you've won the Masters, you get to autograph it inside the United States. So that's kind of the tradition. Keep your autograph. It's almost like don't touch the Stanley Cup until you've won it. So autograph it outside the silhouette of the U.S. if you're a non-winner. And if you have a green jacket, then autograph it in the middle. So that's the storyline behind this. And I just thought this was fun. Rory talking about what he bought from the pro shop.
Yeah, I haven't taken, I've only been back to Northern Ireland twice since, I was there for 3 or 4 days to visit my parents after the week after Augusta. And then I was there for the week of the Open Championship at Portrush. And that's it. So I've still got it for another, whatever it is, another 7 months, 8 months. So, I'll have a few more opportunities for, people to see it and maybe not try it on, but at least they can see it.
Along those lines, Rory, how many Masters flags do you think you've signed already?
A lot. I've no idea. It's been a lot, but I do know that they had 1,100 extra. They had 1,100 left in the merchandise facility at the end of the week, and we took all 1,100. So, but it's been a lot. But I'll never get sick of signing them. I've waited 17 years to sign that flag in the middle, and I will never complain about doing that.
You wouldn't do it in the middle, right?
No.
That was cool how he said that out of respect. No, I would never have done it. I've never signed it in the middle until now. I thought that was cool. Thanks for listening to me talk golf. I enjoyed the conversation. It's time for Versus Vegas. Does it seem like to you it's been forever since we went dancing? Yes. There we go. Thank you very much, Sheehan. Thank you. Got the ball rolling now. Feeling a lot better. Cubs let me down, scored too many runs. I took Milwaukee at Chicago and have the Cubs and Brew Crew to be under the 7.5 because I like the pitching matchup. They scored 10 runs. Cubs won 6-4. Got that one wrong. Got the Mets right. I thought they'd slaughter Washington. I took them on the run line, and they did. We had to get a win by 2. Mets won 8-1, so we got that one. And then we doubled up on the Dodgers. We went Dodgers minus 2.5, and they won 11-4. And then we said the starting pitcher, Sheehan, would get 6 or more strikeouts. He got 7. So we nailed it. We went 3-1 yesterday. Good day, and good juice on Sheehan too. So that felt really good. All right, today we're going back to the double header on the Dodgers because I think the Rockies are so terrible. But in order to get the juice, we're going all the way to Dodgers minus 3.5. And if you know baseball, that's crazy. I don't care how bad the Rockies are. It's crazy to predict a 4-run win. But that's what we're going to do. Because it gives us minus 107 juice. The other juices are out of line. So we took the Dodgers minus the 3.5 against Colorado. And we're going to take it, since we're going to go that high on the score, we might as well take the over. So we're going to say both teams combined to get to 12 runs or more. So we'll take the over 11.5. The other two games, not great juice, but I like it. I got Toronto beating Pittsburgh. And I got Miami behind Alcantara beating St. Louis. So Toronto and Miami on the money line, Dodgers on a 3.5 run line, and Dodgers and Rockies going over 11.5. That is everything to do with Versus Vegas. I want to take heavy minutes here, though, and talk about the fantasy football event. First of all, huge shout out to Rich at Murray Electric and Brad, because he's going to be jumping through hoops and he doesn't even know it. He said, "Hey, can you give me Wednesday as a cutoff date?" And I said, "Sure, no problem." And then I gave all the names out, and then I realized I forgot my wife. Jennifer wants to play. I thought, that's awesome. Jennifer's playing. So Jennifer's in. So I told him late after he had already gotten everything ready, "Oh, Jennifer's in." And then, he doesn't even know this, I invited a buddy from college who hasn't gotten back to me, and he said, well, maybe, that he might actually fly out for the event. And then, do you remember what my good friend from work, Paige DeMacos, who runs the Draft Network, I think it is, she is an amazing person, and I thought it would be awesome to compete against her because she's so knowledgeable. And I want her in on golf anyway. It's the Draft Network. So yeah, and she's the CEO of the Draft Network. I thought that would be awesome to have her as a part of this. So she's going to get back with me today on whether or not she can do it. She's planning on being out of town, but she's actually kind of interested and excited about this. So since she's interested and excited about it, she might join in. And poor Rich is like jumping up and down. Well, wait, I got this, I got this, I got this. So for any else of you that want in, it's Doug at DougFranzUnplugged.com. And unbeknownst to Rich, I'm changing his hard deadline, even though that's unfair to ask somebody, hey, Rich, will you help me out and run this? Sure. Give me a hard deadline of Wednesday. Okay. And then I say, and the hard deadline is Thursday. But hey, you've got today to let me know. And then everything is final before Thursday's show drops. So please send me an email if you want in. It's going to be $100. We're going to have our draft in the private room at Civlik at 11 o'clock. We're going to be given a ton of wings and a ton of loaded nachos. And the nachos have beef on it and chicken. It's crazy how great the nachos are. Then on top of that, we draft for about 2 hours, and then you can either go warm up or just sit back and eat more wings. And then we start our tea times at 1:30. Now, I hate to do this to you. I'm going to golf, and then at about 5:30 or 5:45, as soon as I can, I'm barreling out of here because I got to get ready to be on 12 News at 8 o'clock. So I'm not going to have time to stay around and go. And I feel awful because I would really like to stay and have a good time with you. And especially Ryan, who holds my hand during blackjack, is playing. Ryan's involved, and I don't get to go to the casino with him, which I really had a good time hanging out with all of Ryan's friends one time as members of the Unplugged Army. So that's what's going on this weekend. Then Sunday morning from 9 to 11 is the Big Burrito Express event. Neither of these are sanctioned events. Number one, because I kind of butchered planning of our fantasy draft. I'll be better at it next year, I promise. And because the Burrito Express thing is Sunday morning, and I believe Sunday morning is either your God time or your family time. But since there's an event and we can help out a friend, I am going to church earlier on Sunday and then heading over to Burrito Express. So I want to balance that out. But I need you. I really need you to be as part of this stuff as much as possible if you could join us. So that's everything that's going on. Thanks a lot to Burrito Express, just great people, and Whirlwind Golf Club at Wild Horse Pass. Parker & Sons Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical, 602-2-REPAIR. That's 602, the number 2, then REPAIR for Parker & Sons. There is Santan Ford, 202 in Val Vista. I am Santan Ford. Use the mobile unit if you haven't done it. Oh my gosh, these people are great the way you are treated. It is not a typical car dealership. Big fan. Absolute big fan. The original sponsor of Doug Franz Unplugged is Bell's Nashville Kitchen. They're on they're not on Scottsdale. They're right off of Scottsdale Road, Main Street in Old Town Scottsdale. I think you'll absolutely love it. And we're getting closer to Beer Friday. The sponsor of Beer Friday is 100 Mile Brew, home of the best beer in the history of the state of Arizona, the A Mountain Amber Ale. And if you want yourself some rigatoni, head to Trophy in Chandler. Hey, I think we did it, Al. We crushed it right there. Wish you were golfing with us.
Doug, thank you so much. My best to your listeners, and keep up the work on Doug Franz Unplugged.
I'm an AG.
Wait, she's the AG? Buddy, you're not. She's not being arrested. Let's go.
No, I'm an AG.